On February 9, 2004, at 7:27 p.m., a call came into dispatch in Haverhill, New Hampshire. A single car had crashed on Route 11-2 a dark rural highway lined with snowbanks and dense forest. The location was a sharp bend locals call Weathered Barn Corner. It was below freezing. Night had fully settled in. There were no streetlights. The vehicle was a black 1996 Saturn sedan. It had drifted off the road and struck a snowbank. The airbags deployed. The front end was damaged, but the car was upright. It did not look like a deadly crash. It looked survivable. The car belonged to 21-year-old Maura Murray, a nursing student from the University of Massachusetts Amherst. Within minutes of the crash, a nearby resident, school bus driver Butch Atwood, pulled over to check on the driver. He later told police he saw a young woman standing near the Saturn. She appeared shaken but not seriously injured. He offered to call for help. According to his statement, she declined and said she had already contacted roadside assistance. Atwood later noted that cell service in the area was unreliable and that he did not see a phone in her hand. Concerned, he returned home and called police at approximately 7:19 p.m. at STM. Dispatch records confirm an officer was sent immediately. The response time was short. But when law enforcement arrived at the scene, the driver was gone. The Saturn remained at the roadside. Inside, officers observed deployed airbags and personal belongings. A red liquid stain was visible, later attributed to spilled wine from a box found in the vehicle. Additional alcohol purchased earlier that day was reportedly inside. There were no publicly confirmed signs of a struggle. No confirmed blood evidence, suggesting severe injury. Snow covered the ground. The surrounding woods stretch back into darkness. The stretch of Route 11-12 is rural, with scattered homes and long gaps between passing cars. Visibility at night is limited. No one reported seeing her leave the area. No confirmed witnesses placed her walking down the road after police were called. The timeline is narrow and documented. A crash at 7:27 p.m., a brief roadside conversation, a call to police, an officer arriving within minutes, an abandoned vehicle, and no driver. Maura Murray had left Amherst earlier that day, emailing professors about a family emergency and withdrawing money from an ATM. By evening, she was driving north. Roughly 2.5 hours later, her car was found in a snowbank in rural New Hampshire. No verified evidence has publicly established whether she walked into the woods, accepted a ride from a passing motorist, attempted to avoid contact with police, or encountered foul play. There have been no confirmed sightings of her since that night. When officers reached Weathered Barn Corner, the scene was quiet. A crashed car, fresh snow, winter air. Maura Murray was not there. More than 20 years later, that short window of time on a frozen road in New Hampshire remains the last confirmed record of where she was ever seen. Maura Murray was 21 years old at the time of her disappearance. She was born on May 4, 1982, and grew up in Hanson, Massachusetts. A former track athlete, she graduated from Whitman-Hanson Regional High School and later enrolled at the United States Military Academy at West Point. After her time at West Point, she transferred to the University of Massachusetts Amherst, where she was studying nursing. In the years before February 2004, there were documented incidents that later became part of the public record. While enrolled at West Point, Maura admitted to using a fellow cadet's credit card number to order food. The matter was addressed internally, and she ultimately left the academy. There is no public record indicating criminal prosecution related to that incident. At the University of Massachusetts, Maura worked part-time as a nursing student and held a campus security job. On the evening of February 5, 2004, 4 days before her disappearance, she was working a shift at a campus security desk when she reportedly became visibly upset after receiving a phone call. A supervisor later stated that Maura appeared unresponsive and had to be escorted back to her dorm room. The specific reason for the call has not been publicly confirmed by investigators. On February 7, 2004, 2 days before she disappeared, Maura was involved in a car accident while driving her father's vehicle in Hadley, Massachusetts. According to police reports, the crash occurred after a gathering where alcohol was present. The vehicle struck a guardrail and sustained significant damage. No serious injuries were reported. The accident was documented and insurance matters were pending. On Monday, February 9, 2004, Maura took several actions that have been verified through records. She emailed her professors stating that she would be absent for approximately a week due to a family emergency. There has been no public confirmation of an actual emergency occurring within her immediate family at that time. She also emailed her employer, indicating she would be away. Surveillance footage from an ATM in Amherst shows Maura withdrawing approximately $290 from her bank account that afternoon. Receipts confirm she purchased alcohol from a nearby liquor store shortly afterward. Items reportedly found in her dorm room suggested she had packed belongings, including clothing and personal effects. Some of her possessions were boxed up. Investigators later noted that her dorm room appeared largely emptied. At some point later that day, Maura left Amherst driving her black 1996 Saturn sedan. The precise time she departed is not definitively documented in public records. There is no confirmed explanation for her intended destination. Authorities have stated that computer searches conducted prior to her departure included directions to areas in northern New Hampshire and Vermont, though the specific purpose of the trip remains unclear. There is no verified evidence that she informed friends or family of a detailed travel plan. Phone records show calls were placed earlier that day, but none have publicly clarified her intended route or final objective. By early evening, she was driving north. Approximately 2.5 hours later, her vehicle would be found crashed along Route L2M12 in Haverhill, New Hampshire. The events leading up to that crash are partially documented through digital records, receipts, and witness statements. Her reason for leaving Amherst that day, however, has never been conclusively established through official findings. On the evening of February 9, 2004, at approximately 7:27 p.m., a resident of Haverhill, New Hampshire, contacted authorities to report a single vehicle accident on Route 1112. The location was near a sharp curve commonly referred to as Weathered Barn Corner. The road was dark, rural, and bordered by snowbanks and wooded terrain. Winter conditions were present, though the roadway itself was passable. The vehicle involved was identified as a black 1996 Saturn sedan registered to Maura Murray. The car had struck a snowbank on the right side of the road. The airbags had deployed, and the front end sustained noticeable damage. The impact did not appear catastrophic. The vehicle was upright and not obstructing the entire roadway. Shortly after the crash, local resident and school bus driver Butch Atwood stopped to check on the driver. According to his statements to law enforcement, he observed a young woman standing near the vehicle. He later described her as appearing shaken, but not visibly injured. Atwood offered assistance and reportedly suggested contacting police. He stated that the woman declined, telling him she had already called roadside assistance. Atwood later indicated that cell phone reception in that area was unreliable, and that he did not observe her using a phone during their interaction. Concerned by the situation, Atwood returned to his nearby residence and contacted police at approximately 7:29 p.m. time. Dispatch records confirm that officers were sent to the scene shortly thereafter. The first responding officer arrived within minutes. When law enforcement reached the Saturn, the driver was no longer present. The vehicle was found locked. Inside, officers observed that the airbags had deployed and that there were personal belongings in the car. A red liquid stain was noted on the interior, later attributed to spilled wine from a box of alcohol located in the vehicle. Additional alcoholic beverages purchased earlier that day were also reportedly found inside. There were no immediate signs of a struggle. No confirmed blood evidence indicating serious injury was publicly documented. Officers canvassed the immediate area that evening. The temperature was below freezing. Snow covered the ground surrounding the roadway. Law enforcement later reported that a police tracking dog was brought to the scene. According to official statements, the dog followed a scent trail east along Route 1124 for a short distance before losing the track near the roadway. Authorities have stated that this may indicate that Maura continued on foot along the road for a period of time. However, no definitive conclusion was drawn from the canine search. Witness accounts from nearby residents varied. One neighbor reported seeing a person near the vehicle and mentioned what appeared to be a glow resembling a cigarette. This observation has been publicly discussed, but has not been formally verified as evidence of another individual's presence. Law enforcement has not confirmed that a second person was definitively at the scene. Extensive searches were conducted in the days following the disappearance. Ground searches, aerial searches, and additional canine units were deployed. The surrounding woods were examined. No confirmed trace of Maura Murray was located during those efforts. No items were publicly reported as having been recovered from the immediate wooded area that conclusively indicated her direction of travel. There is no publicly confirmed evidence establishing whether she left the scene on foot voluntarily, except that a ride from a passing motorist, or encountered foul play. Law enforcement has not publicly released evidence proving any one scenario. The documented timeline remains narrow. A crash reported at approximately 7:27 p.m. A brief interaction with a local resident, and police arrival minutes later to find the vehicle abandoned. From that point forward, there are no confirmed sightings of Maura Murray. In the days following Maura Murray's disappearance, local law enforcement initiated a coordinated search of the crash site and surrounding area. Officers from the Haverhill Police Department were joined by New Hampshire State Police and other agencies. Ground searches were conducted along Route 11-2 and into the wooded terrain adjacent to the roadway. Aerial searches were also performed. Despite these efforts, no confirmed trace of Maura was located in the immediate aftermath. The case was classified as a missing person investigation. Over time, it has involved multiple agencies, including the New Hampshire Attorney General's Office and the FI. Authorities have consistently stated that the case remains open and active. However, law enforcement has also acknowledged that there is no publicly confirmed evidence conclusively establishing what happened after Maura left her vehicle. One of the earliest investigative considerations was the possibility that Maura left the scene on foot to avoid potential legal consequences. Alcohol had been found in the vehicle, and a prior accident involving her father's car had occurred 2 days earlier. Investigators have publicly stated that she may have feared a charge related to driving under the influence and chosen to leave the area temporarily. In this scenario, it has been theorized that she could have entered the woods and succumbed to the winter conditions. February temperatures in northern New Hampshire can be severe, and hypothermia is a documented risk in such environments. However, repeated searches over the years have not produced confirmed human remains attributable to her in the vicinity of the crash site. Another documented line of inquiry involves the possibility of foul play. Because the scent trail reported by a police tracking dog ended near the roadway, some investigators have acknowledged that this could indicate she entered a vehicle. Authorities have not publicly confirmed evidence of a struggle or abduction at the scene. No charges have been filed against any individual in connection with her disappearance. While various persons of interest have been publicly discussed in media coverage and online forums, law enforcement has not announced a suspect responsible for criminal activity in this case. A third possibility that has been publicly mentioned is voluntary disappearance. This theory suggests that Maura intentionally left her prior life behind. Supporters of this view often point to her emails referencing a family emergency, the packing of belongings from her dorm room, and her travel north without clearly informing others of her destination. Law enforcement, however, has stated that there has been no verified financial, digital, or documented activity in her name since February 2004 that confirms she established a new identity or ongoing life elsewhere. No confirmed communication has been received from her since the night of the crash. The Murray family has at times expressed concerns regarding aspects of the early investigation. Public records reflect disagreements about evidence handling and communication. In response, law enforcement agencies have maintained that investigative details have been withheld at times to preserve the integrity of the case. Over the years, additional searches have been conducted, including excavations and renewed examinations of nearby properties based on tips. None have publicly yielded conclusive evidence explaining her disappearance. Officially, no single theory has been endorsed as the definitive explanation. The case remains unresolved. Investigators have stated that they continue to evaluate leads as they arise. But more than 2 decades later, there is no publicly confirmed conclusion as to whether Maura Murray died accidentally in the wilderness, encountered foul play, or left the area under circumstances that have yet to be proven. As of today, Maura Murray's disappearance remains unsolved. The New Hampshire State Police Cold Case Unit continues to list the investigation as active. Over the years, law enforcement agencies have stated that they periodically review evidence and follow up on new information when it emerges. No arrest has been made, no confirmed remains have been recovered, no verified communication from Maura has surfaced since the night of February 9, 2004. Search efforts have continued in various forms. Organized ground searches involving volunteers and investigators have taken place in the surrounding region. In some instances, specific properties have been examined after tips were received. Law enforcement has confirmed that certain search warrants have been executed over the years, though details have not always been publicly disclosed. None of these efforts have produced conclusive evidence explaining what happened after Maura left her vehicle. The case has received sustained media attention. It has been the subject of newspaper coverage, televised reports, documentary series, and investigative podcasts. Public interest has generated online communities dedicated to analyzing timelines, reviewing witness statements, and debating documented theories. While this attention has kept the case visible, it has not resolved the central question. For Maura's family, the absence of answers has extended for more than 2 decades. Public statements from family members reflect an ongoing commitment to finding clarity. They have participated in interviews and search efforts and have appealed for information. The uncertainty has shaped not only their private lives, but also the public narrative surrounding the case. The psychological impact of long-term unsolved disappearances is well documented. Ambiguous loss, a term used by researchers to describe situations in which there is no confirmed death or recovery, creates a prolonged state of uncertainty. Without definitive evidence, families are left without closure. In Maura Murray's case, the last confirmed event remains the crash on Route 1112 and the brief encounter witnessed that night. Beyond that documented moment, there is no verified account. No confirmed explanation has replaced the silence that followed. The road where her car was found is unchanged. The official record still ends at the same point. A vehicle in a snowbank, a short window of time, and a disappearance that has not been conclusively explained, and the silence has never been broken.